Hi, I'm Phil Taggart, and we are here, or I am here with Jean Colonomos, and we're going to talk to her about her career in dance and in writing, and basically a career in the arts. And so, hello Jean, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
So, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I knew I was a dancer when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
My mom exposed me to a local ballet school, and I just, I don't know, absorbed it like that was my life. That was, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be my life, but I was so taken with it that I just kept at it.
But how did you get to ballet? Didn't you learn the piano?
Yes, I did. I wrote a poem about it.
So tell me a little story about the piano.
Well, basically, my mom thought that my brother and I should have piano lessons, and it was kind of the suburban thing to do. And but every time the teacher was trying to teach me like a hot cross buns, I'd jump off the bench and dance to it. And so he eventually, after my third piano lesson, something like that, he said, "Mrs. Roberts, you're wasting your money." Every time he tried to teach me hot cross buns, I would jump off the bench and dance. And so I was very taken with, I went to a local ballet school, and there was a photo of Maria Tallchief, who was, I think, a Sioux Native American. She was a great ballerina in the 30s and 40s, actually. And I was mesmerized by the iconic photo on the wall of when she was the White Swan in Swan Lake.
Wow.
And that was it for me. I don't know, somehow that was it.
You have a poem about ballet. Could you read it for us?
Sure. It's called Imprint. A pint-sized 6-year-old squirms at the piano while the teacher instructs her how to play hot cross buns, a 3-note melody. Preoccupied with ballerina Maria Tallchief, who she knows from a photo on a wall at her ballet school, she deafens to the notes. At the end of the third lesson, she overhears the teacher, "Mrs. Roberts, you're wasting your money. Every time I teach your daughter a tune, she skips off the bench and dances." In the picture, Tallchief's head is crowned with Swan Lake's iconic white feathered headband. The photo calls out to the girl, a lighthouse illuminating curiosity, where imagination takes the lead.
Nice. I really love that.
Thank you.
So tell me, you've got a book. Tell me a little bit about your book.
This is a book called Living the Dream, which is kind of, if you're a dancer, it's a little bit, it has irony in it because the dream was not always such a great dream. And, but you're in for a dollar, you're in for a dime, in for a dollar. And so I wrote this book. It's in 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
The first part is about my life as a ballerina. And when I was 16, you know, and as an adolescent's bodies changed, and I could not continue. My guru teacher in New York City, Margaret Crask, a British teacher who trained actually the young Margot Fontaine. She came across here, and there were 4 of us who were her proteges. And I had hyperextended knees, and that was not good for ballet because the ballet is like a straight line. And so I was just thrown, my first identity crisis. I was 16 years old.
So that's the first part of the, tell me a little bit, let's hear another poem about the ballet.
Okay. This is called Heaven Bound, and my mother was very influential in helping me succeed. You were my dream catcher, Mom. My desire to study dance, caught in your third eye's web. At 8 years old, you knew to take me to Ballet Arts in Manhattan, a serious dance studio where kids and professional ballerinas trained. Some teachers were Russian émigrés from Sergei Diaghilev's Sensationnel Ballet Russe, when in early 1900s, when in early 1900, Vaslav Nijinsky astonished Paris and the West. His entrechat was a vertical jump where he crossed his legs 10 times while airborne. Heaven bound, why would he come down? Many company members emigrated to New York. Their shaman's knowledge of grace harked back to 2 centuries to court dances from Peter the Great's reign. George Balanchine was another import. He believed you put a group of men on stage, you have a group of men. You put a group of women on stage, you have the world. I wanted to be part of that world. I wanted to reach transcendence through physical extremes, what Mr. B believed. My first important teacher was Madame Vera Nemchinova, who would crack her cane against the wood bar and yell, "I was Bolshoi," as if our Raggedy Ann bodies were insults. The wood bar shook with her past glory, and I'd work harder to suck in my belly, or from a standing position, I'd cramp my overarched foot when I slid it to the side in tendu. Madam sometimes recognized my efforts and would wink, whooshing a tempered joy through my body. Oh, Mom, the day of remembrance is the day you led me to Ballet Arts, where the dream you caught landed at the ballet bar. Thank you for sending me through doors that opened the rest of my life.
That's wonderful.
I feel very lucky.
Yeah, it is wonderful. You were mentioning that, so there was a lot of Russian immigrants, or they would be not really immigrants, they're kind of looking for, they're running away to the United States.
Yes.
How much did that affect dance?
Tremendously, tremendously, in the sense that even for many decades, ballerinas went to the Russian dancers. Now, I went once or twice with a girlfriend. It was not for me. It was, you know, it was like the army. I mean, it was like, you know, it wasn't for me. There are 2 schools, the Russian school and the English school. The English school is much softer. It's much, it's not like get your leg as high as it has to go. It's like your body, you know, your hips have to be square and you have to do it. It's just a softer, more, I don't know if I would say elegant, but eloquent way.
Yeah, the Bolshoi is pretty regimented, isn't it?
Bolshoi is, but the other side of it, the Mariinsky, that was Baryshnikov, that was Rudolf Nureyev. I mean, Baryshnikov had the Mariinsky, which is a softer, I don't know, you know, temperament, really, in the teaching.
So you went into this area. You were into ballet, and you really enjoyed dancing, but you had to change.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, you had to change because your body.
Yes, and I was lost. I was lost for about 3 years. I went to college in Pulteney, Vermont, because my parents wanted me to go. I didn't want to go to college, but it was a 2-year college with more cows than people. And I came back after the first year, and I went to Hofstra College. And it was a commuter college in Hempstead, Long Island. And so there, just by accident, you could take gym and you got a credit for it, you know, and dance. They had great, and the second year I was, my junior year I was there, this tiny Hawaiian Chinese woman, Patricia Leong, she taught Graham technique. And that was it for me. Just when she said, okay, sit on the floor, put your soles of the feet together in butterfly position and start bouncing, I thought, what? We're not at the bar, you know? I mean, it was just, I was like open, like a, I don't know.
So the Martha Graham dances and the style, was that really different at the time? Because now we accept all those styles, but was it really different?
Yes. Oh, yes. She was reviled by ballet. There was a war. It was like, what was it called? The war. It was, there's a phrase for it, you know. Until in the 70s, Martha, something like, I wasn't with the company anymore, but the way, what I see, in 1970 or so, she hired Nureyev and Fontaine to do something. I mean, it was just a wisp of nothing, but it was like the war is over. That moment was like the war is over. And yeah.
So the two styles were very, very competitive at the time you were doing it.
Yeah.
And so you ended up going to the Martha Graham School, but, you know, learning the style at this community college. And then how did you get involved with Martha Graham?
I just fell in love so hard. And the summer of my junior year, I went to New York. They had the June course, and you had for 4 weeks or 3 weeks, it was like 2.5 hours of class, one from 11 to 12. I'm not sure of it, 10:30 to 11:30, and then 1 to 2:30, 1 to 3. I'm not sure, exact on the, but it was like a 2.5 hour, with a half hour in between whatever the segments were. And I mean, I kept going, and I kept going, and even when I started to get my master's, I was supposed to be a French teacher. Oh. I had family, and it was what I wanted. I wanted to be fluent in French. And, but at one point when I was about 22, I just kept going. I had a job. I had graduated, and I had a job. I had a part-time job, and I kept going up to the studio. And finally, I just said, I'm quitting my master's. I'm just, whatever this means, And I that's how it happened. That's how I got my way in there.
And so Martha noticed you.
Yes, she noticed me in Bertram Ross's performance at the Y on the 92nd Street right? 92nd Street Y on Lexington Avenue that did dance performances. And I was in his company, and she saw me, and he had a party at his house afterwards, and she called me into the room, and she said, "Oh, I never knew you could dance like that. Hello?" And, and she said, "I'm going to have work for you in the spring, in the early spring."
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was just, what?
So then at that point you were dancing with the Martha Graham group.
I had been chosen as an extra. There's like a sliding scale in a way. I was in 2 dances of Martha's because they needed extra girls. Mm-hmm. One was Clytemnestra in the chorus, and one was Primitive Mysteries in the chorus. But then after that, then I became a member of the company.
That was a lot of work, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She's pretty exacting, isn't she?
Well, it's like being a major NBA athlete.
Yeah, of course. So they worked you hard.
Yeah, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, the challenges were so exciting to me. I mean, it was really hard, but I.
And there was a lot of thought about women dancers at that point. There was kind of a movement into women dancing.
Well, Martha, what is it called? Joseph Campbell called Martha a genius. When she started out, I mean, and through the years, John Martin, I think, was a critic at the New York Times. Ugly, angular,
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph Campbell, who was a professor at Sarah Lawrence, he said, no, the woman's a genius, because Martha, one of the things she did for women, and it's probably one of the reasons I was so drawn to her, was it was all about women. It wasn't about Agamemnon and the Trojan War. It was about Clytemnestra, his wife, and what he left behind, and the murder, the death of Iphigenia, to just get to go to war, that was one thing. I mean, everything. Joan of Arc, well, she was, a female. So, but every biblical or Greek myth, Medea, yeah, Medea was really.
Oh yeah, well, it's Medea.
Yeah, and it was in favor. It was, female rage for being discounted. She what did she kill Jason's father or something like that to get the golden fleece?
Yeah.
So that's why he said he was. Campbell said she was a genius because she turned the tables.
Yes, she did. Now, at the time that you were doing this, were you really aware that she was turning the tables, or you were just?
Oh yeah, because I had Greek myth in high school. I went to professional children's school. I left home when I was 14, and I lived with my grandparents in New York, so I could train for ballet. And my history junior year was, the first half was the Bible, and the second half was Edith Hamilton's Greek myth.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. That's the kind of school, I mean, they could do that because we only went from 10 to 2, we only had subjects. Everybody, were actors or skating. I was very close to an Olympic skater, and,
That was some pretty heady stuff then.
Very heady.
Because you get into, dealing with women's myth at that time was actually a little bit different, because we hadn't had the women's movement of the 20s kind of fell away, and then the next women's movement wasn't really until the 70s, the beginning of the 70s.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And so, all of a sudden, there's someone who's really serious about women's as myth.
Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Women, and he had given them scholarship money, grant money. Many women, like Helen Tamiris and I forget others, who he had given grants to do their choreography. Helen Tamiris was amazing,
So this was
Woody Guthrie.
Yeah.
Woody Guthrie. I mean, yeah.
So this was what a wonderful time to be part of it, because you were kind of breaking through, and you got to do what you loved.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How wonderful is that?
I sure did.
So let's do a poem about. Let's do another poem.
Okay.
Should we jump to modern? Should we jump to modern dance at this time, or you want to do another ballet? Want to jump to Martha right away, or do you want to?
Yeah, I could do the Dear Martha Graham and how I fell in love with her.
Oh, please do.
Yeah. Dear Martha Graham, I swallowed your every breath and word when born again into the light of beginner. I hungered for your milk to nourish and grow my previously schooled ballerina's body, heart, and mind. My need for your attention, first as a scholarship student, then as a member of your company, paralleled others' desires to look at me, Martha, look at me. You were my passion, my devotion, and despair. It took so long to be asked into the company. Your creation's the reason for shifting my life's dream, from marriage to the dancer cells multiplying in my soul. I was blessed with a runaway love I could not control. The older forgave the younger me for how I excised my husband from my life. I believed in a bigger design. I believed in every gut punch into contraction and freedom into release. I believed in the use of the flexed foot and the first third of class as a half-hour warm-up on the floor. Sitting in child's pose, I deep breathed into contraction, hinged backwards, my body suspended over the heels, the light like water flowing through me as I grab hold of the heels, then thrust my pelvis forward into a steely arc of beauty. Every moment a sea change, every moment a dangerous slide into the birth canal of your art.
Wow. That's a wonderful poem.
Thank you.
And what a tribute to Martha.
Yeah.
So you danced there for a few years, and actually you were in Life magazine once, weren't you?
Yes, 1965. This had to do with Bertram Ross.
Yeah.
And it was a whole series, I don't know how many weeks it went on, for dance, modern dance in America. And Alwyn Nicolai, who was more heady and space-oriented, he was one session, and Berg, the class, the two people from Life magazine had come. They were very enchanted with Bert, and they came to do while we were rehearsing for him, and then they were so taken for it. They came to Martha's, and I have some pictures still from that they gave us from it, and my picture is it's in class. And I have a leotard and tan tights, I think. And my girlfriend we were going across the floor, and we were waiting in line, and it was just, kind of looking who was going across the floor. And it's just a very simple, ordinary photo of what it was like in that class.
Wow, that must have been something to be in Life magazine.
I know, it was just great.
It's like
I didn't think to bring it. I mean, whatever.
We'll find it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that, to be noticed so in everyone's house, because everyone had Life magazine, and to have your picture in that.
What was interesting to me always was I don't know if I registered that until later in my life.
Yeah.
I thought, wow. It was just, okay, I was just in class, I got it, whatever.
Yeah. Well,
but you're right,
I was, and I'm thinking, and then you got out of the dancing with Martha because, well, dancers age out.
Also, she wanted me to take a leave of absence, and I was just not willing to do that.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now the story comes out.
Yes.
Now we know what happened.
Yeah.
And then, but you were writing. You did. This is another career that you picked up. You were writing.
What happened was I went into a dive because I got at the same time as Martha asked me to take a leave of absence, I was leaving my first husband, and after a 9-year marriage. And he was not supporting me, you know, in terms of dance and stuff. It's just, you know, whatever. We had a good marriage, and then it died. And for 3 years, I was lost, completely lost. It was like I had this apartment on 88th Street between Central Park West and Columbus Avenue. It was not the way Columbus Avenue is now, very shishi. And there was like this spindly tree right across from my window, and I was that desperate, spindly, constantly dying tree until I realized after 6 months of mourning, I had to start to function again. I couldn't function.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a job at a great department store called Design Research, and we had we only had European, Swedish, Danish, and we had Marimekko in the 60s, who was, you know, 70s, sorry. And and I sold furniture. It was between Madison and Park Avenue, and it was a brownstone. It was beautiful. And all of the people, the saleswomen, mostly salesmen, Hans Waskoff was Danish, and he was our manager. But, you know, you had Swedish and Danish running through and they were so friendly. They just took me in right away. They never asked about my life. They just, you know, I was part of the crowd. And that was amazing for me. And then finally, after 3 years, Phil, I said, I got to try something else, you know. I wanted to write about dance. What else, you know? And so I wrote a couple of samples, and I went down to Dance Magazine, and Rob Baker at that point was not the editor-in-chief, but the editor of the writers. And I presented the, what is it called, the samples, and he said, oh, I don't need the samples. You were a Martha Graham dancer. We don't have one of those. And so I got a job right away.
That's great.
Yeah.
So your writing career was happening.
It started to be happening.
Then you were doing the journalism.
Yeah.
But you also started
writing plays and poetry. Actually, poetry was the first thing I did get a volume published from the.
So that's an old one, huh?
Yeah.
And then you did something about Martha again. You did that. You did a
play.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. It was called The Third from the Left, which is the name, you know, of course we were in the corps, right? And it was about the first dance I ever performed with Martha, and it was Primitive Mysteries,
which is
the bitch of a dance, the most difficult dance, because it was difficult all the time. Clytemnestra was difficult just in the Furies dance, and it was a Furies dance. It was a horse race, basically. And so, yeah, I wrote it, and it was performed in Edinburgh, and then it was performed in New York City. And the cast was from here, yeah, so we went to that. And, you know, one of the things that I love, it's a suite of poems. And I was the only one. The second section is called Crucifixus. And our arms were like, she made us stay like this, and we just tried forward and back and forward and back for, I don't know, 10 minutes at least.
Wow.
Yeah, and because she said, you know, Christ died on the cross and he asphyxiated. So this was the asphyxiation. So I was on the upper left stage, this was in rehearsal, the upper left corner, and the piano is like over here, and Martha had her arm on the piano, and she's whispering to herself, "This is the cruelest dance I ever made." And I thought, oh my God. And I'm the only one who heard it because she said it in a whisp, and I was right, you know.
Close enough.
Yes. And I thought, oh my God, you got that right, lady. I mean, yeah.
So you got to do that, then you got to write about it. And this was also one of her really groundbreaking dances, too.
Yes. This was what got her on the map.
Mm-hmm.
In 1931, she and the composer, Louis Horst, they got a grant to go to the Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to see the Native Americans and the dancing, and she came back with a lot of the, and it was, they had an enactment of the Christ cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what she came back with. And then, you know, that's put her on the map with Frank Lloyd Wright and Pablo Picasso.
John Campbell wasn't enough, huh?
No.
Having Campbell at that, God, I didn't realize he taught there.
Yeah.
That's lucky for everyone.
Yeah.
We're about ready to run. We're running out of time. I'd like you to end it for me with a poem, please.
Should I do the Russian one?
Sure.
Bolshoi?
Yeah, that'd be great.
This is, okay. So, Martha Graham and the stars of Moscow's Bolshoi Ballet and the Cold War. That once-in-a-lifetime fall day in 1963, when the Cold War warmed East 63rd Street at the Martha Graham School of Contemporary Dance. That unforgettable day when Ekaterina Maximova and Vladimir Vasilyev, the wife and husband stars of Russia's Bolshoi Ballet, performing at the Metropolitan Opera House, were given permission by the Russian government to take a modern dance class from Martha Graham.
Wow.
That bone-chilling day when 4 squat-bodied officials, 1 female translator, and 3 scowling KGBers sat on Isamu Noguchi's kidney-shaped low-wood benches, guarding their country's treasures. Yet, defections here, the reminder of Nureyev's 1961 escape from the Kirov Ballet to England, still fresh. That day when 2 prima ballerina dancers with the skill and beauty of Olympian gods shared a foreign movement language and spent half an hour warming up on the floor instead of at the bar. That perpetually surprising day when Martha's signature movement, the contraction and release, became a diplomatic peace offering. That day, after a class composed of advanced students and company members, Martha invited us into the garden to welcome the Russians. We gave them our best smiles, and through the translator, thanked Maximova and Vasilyev for coming. That day, when the star took Martha by the elbow and brought her to her bulging dance bag, Maximova reached in a pocket and pulled out a 25-year-old wrinkled photo of Graham from Letter to the World, 1940. Her dance based on Emily Dickinson's Love of Life. That moment when she showed Martha the photo, her eyes wet, seeming to say, "You inspire me, you give me courage," then placed it over her heart and squeezed Martha's hand as if she'd been waiting for this all her Iron Curtain life. Mm-hmm. That once-in-a-lifetime day when we were so moved that neither the KGB nor the language barrier nor the Cold War stopped the flow of art from spreading throughout the world.
Thank you very much, Jean. I think what you gave us was really a treat, and thank you. We've been speaking with Jean Colonomos about her time with Martha Graham, dance in New York, her writing, and her life, which has been really a fantastic and wonderful life. Thank you guys very much for watching, and bye.